Can Nigeria overcome the many challenges facing it today? As we know, some of the issues facing the country include low crude oil prices, stagnant foreign reserves with attendant problems, rising unemployment, declining revenues for government expenditures, insecurity in high rates of robbery and kidnapping, and others. We continue our discussion on some of these with Ambassador Joe Keshi, Vice Chairman at United Bank for Africa, UBA, and former seasoned diplomat. Please join me in our continued discussion with Ambassador Keshi.
When the president came on board, for example, and the economy is what it was at that time and it still is, oil price was falling, we were not making money from oil, and we needed to rebuild the economy. And everybody talks of diversification.
Yeah.
If the president wanted to send a strong change message on the economy, I believe he should have taken the Minister of Agriculture or taken the Ministry of Solid Minerals.
Taken as what?
As the minister. Here's what would happen. If he takes the Ministry of Solid Minerals or the
instead of
because you see, when you go back, when you take petroleum, you see how create this mindset that, look, this is a sector that we are still interested in. But when you divert people's attention to say, listen, Minister for State you guys sort out this problem in petroleum. It is not making money for now, but we can make a lot of money for this country from agriculture and from solid minerals. Then with the president as this thing, everybody now will say to you, oh, you know what? If the president is moving to solid mineral, that seems to be the next place Nigeria is going to focus on. Precisely.
That's a pretty good point, because you're right. In the last 3 quarters, we've had economic growth well under 5%. In fact, under 4%. If the population growth rate is at about 3%, that means the real per capita growth rate is like stagnant. And that really confirms the misery that people are experiencing. So you are absolutely right that the party, the APC, and the president should show focus, the same kind of focus that they seem to be showing. I'm trying to understand, because to me, I think that they're committing themselves to change, all right, but change in the area of security, change in the area of corruption, but they are not very clear how the change is to be implemented in the area of the economy.
Look,
and everybody's concerned about that.
Even change in the area of security, I have a problem with it. Okay. Today, the Nigerian military depends a lot on imported materials for the operation. And that costs us pretty some in terms of foreign exchange. Now, here is a military that is almost over 100 years old. Here is a military that has that fought in Burma. Here is a military that has done a lot of work in terms of peacekeeping operations around the world. Yes. Here is a military that spent 10 good years fighting insurgency in Sierra Leone and Liberia. The same military has not developed its own capability to be able to provide for itself, which is why we do not have something near the military-industrial complex in this country. But guess what? But guess what? But guess what? Yes. You know the story of that. But guess what? It's similar situation or similar countries in the same boat with Nigeria. Pakistan, India, Brazil. About the same length. Today, they've become nuclear powers. They provide well over 60 to 70% of their needs. You remember, I don't know whether you heard recently, the United States gave us a whole chunk of vehicles.
Yes.
Did you read the stories of those vehicles? Half of them can be moved. This is a thing they got from Afghanistan that, because the US cannot dispose of them, they now spread it to us. So we have now to spend a lot But if we have developed our own capability,
you got a point.
So when you're talking of the military itself, there's a problem. So going forward, this should be the focus, because we need a strong military at any given time from what we've seen, not only for internal security or the security to protect the territorial integrity of this country, but the truth of the matter is that if we have global ambition, we also need to have a strong military.
Absolutely.
So the same goes to the economy. You cannot talk of diversifying the economy and not begin immediately to put in place. Look, if oil is going down and oil is selling at 27%, we just have to say to ourselves, what can we do very quickly in the next 2 years to find a fairly good replacement for oil?
I want to ask you a question in that connection. Can states pay salaries because of the dependency that the governments have on crude oil revenues? Can they pay salaries?
A friend just sent me an article that I read and helped edit, and I'm trying to push it out. He was making a case why the states matter and why we need to begin to focus seriously on the states. Number one, many of our states are not viable. They cannot survive. There's nothing you can do to make them survive. Why? Because the leadership in those states lack the vision to look inwards.
I'm sorry, Ambassador, they cannot survive. They are surviving now.
No, they cannot.
They cannot survive when?
They cannot. Look, they cannot survive. They cannot survive without getting their normal check from the federal government. And if there is a continuous
erosion of
that,
they can't do it.
They're in trouble.
Yes.
For a number of them, they can't raise the internal.
When will this start? It will start when? In May, in June? I mean,
what?
But their inability to survive.
No. It's not going. No, it's already started. They can't pay salary. Yeah. Listen, what is the function of government? If you cannot pay salaries, if you cannot create jobs, what are you? What are you doing?
No, but then what do you do?
So I really don't know exactly what we need to do, but we need to begin a conversation whether the states as presently constituted are viable or sustainable. If not, what do we do? And as they call the argument of this is that if we cannot effect a political engineering of saying, look, let's go back to a modified regional existence. If we cannot do that, can we now begin to impress upon all the governors to begin some fundamental change in the administration? Look, the APC came on with a change mantra. Good or bad, there's been some changes at the federal level where you have now reduced ministries, some ministries have been made, and so on. In some states, they've created more ministries. They've created more aids. Now, you are putting all these fellows on board to increase a way bill that you cannot even carry.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
The governors are still traveling the way they are traveling. You see, so fundamentally, there's a need for a mental shakeup.
Now, what about as we round up here? Our diaspora people, you are an expert in this. You're ambassador. You've been all over the world. You spent a lot of time in the United States. All those guys that send $21 billion home in remittances. I mean, first of all, I always wonder where does it go? That's like 70% of the federal budget. So if we can get $21 billion, the federal budget is about $30 billion. I mean, that's extremely significant. Can we try to see how that works through into the economy? That's one. The other one that I want you to look to is there a way that we can prime our diaspora people a little bit more, our guys in the diaspora? What I mean by priming them is getting them more hooked to the home economy. Not that they should move home, but let them be connected somehow. There's Skype now. There are all kinds of ways of engaging their services, talking to them, or even having them to invest back home, or having them to induce their friends to invest back home at a time like this? I wanted you to speak a little bit to that.
My own personal disappointment is that we began on that issue of policy, of trying to encourage them to not just focus on Nigeria, but to see how we can work with them in some critical areas. When I was in charge of the diaspora, I defined 3 areas: education, ICT, and health. These were deliberate because as very well that in these 3 areas, you have the critical mass of Nigerian experience that can really help change a number of things in this country. And so the advocacy at that time was on development, trying to get Nigerians to not just focus on these 3 areas, but to be part and parcel of it. They are sending a lot of money. But I also believe that, the way this money goes, it goes to family members for a number of things, which is good. Some of them sending money to build houses and do a number of things. Some of them putting money for investment and so on. But because of when that question was asked, my first reaction was, this is true. If these guys send that amount annually, where does it go to? For all I know, perhaps it's what's been sustaining us. But we must find a way of really finding a way of collating. It's got
to have a real catalytic value.
Yes, but the diaspora need to change their mindset. I don't know if you go into the internet now. I just think they have abused the whole system. You find a lot of internet warriors.
because nobody's engaging. Well, I say nobody in an exaggerated way, but because we're not engaging them.
No. They can't be engaged. Listen.
Their communities can engage them. Their states can engage them.
The only reason why I occasionally contribute is to try to engage them. But these guys have gone bonkers. I mean, they've gone nuclear. You can't engage them because they have this, for me, misplaced anger, misplaced
some frustration,
unnecessary frustration.
Well, sometimes not so unnecessary because they want things to be much better than they are, and they're not happening. They have their own problems where they are.
Look,
and these things all come together, and they cause them to be that way.
I can give you a lot of story from the health sector because that is where I believe we are not focusing on as much as we should. And people are dying when they should be alive because of misdiagnosis, lack of equipment, and the rest of them. Whereas you have Nigerians abroad who can help arrest this. I'm not saying that our doctors are bad or that they are not well trained. At the end of the day, it's the same Nigerian doctors who leave these shows to go and work abroad, and they do well.
That probably means the environment is more promoting of what they are doing.
Good. But you know what? One of those things we tried to do in the past was to see whether we can create a synergy between those at home and those abroad. It never did work very well. But I also believe that under Professor Lambo, Minister of Education, when you guys were there, he was also thinking, and we're working on this together to see whether we could actually give them some federal government medical, whatever they call them, hospitals to manage, so that they can equip it as much as they can and be able to look. Today in Nigeria, and honestly, I'm not running down our doctors and I'm not criticizing them. Some of them have not seen some equipment that their colleagues are using abroad. That is the honest truth.
That's the truth,
So instead of building more hospitals, you are not looking after doctors. You are not equipping the hospitals very well. Why don't you expand facilities in those hospitals? Why don't you retrain personnel? And the Nigerian diaspora can be a good resource base for all this.
That's the point I'm making, yes. Wonderful. Ambassador, on that note, I want to thank you so very much.
Thank you, as always. Glad to be here. I'm back with you.
Well,
thank you.
We want to have you back soon.
Thank you very much.